And John, I'll take one of those tickets.
Yeah, y'all can go ahead and take your seats. Can y'all hear me okay? I don't have a real loud voice. Okay, as Jason said, my name's Diane Denson. I will be the moderator for this forum of the candidates for mayor of Hendersonville. The candidates participating will be Tommy Elston, David Kimbrough, and Jeff Coker. Jamie Clary is unable to attend this forum, but we will be seeing a video introduction by Mr. Clary. We prepared 4 questions that will be asked of each candidate. Each of these questions deal with the challenges facing the city of Hendersonville: growth, traffic, drainage, affordable housing, etc. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an introduction, who they are, why they're running, etc. I will ask the first question once, and then we'll give each candidate 2 minutes to respond. I will then continue with asking the next question, and so on. After we have completed each question and response, each candidate will then have 3 minutes for closing remarks. Keep in mind, the purpose of this forum is to provide the candidates with an opportunity to inform the electorate of their positions, not to bash other candidates. We appreciate that we will all adhere to these rules. If those attending should have other questions for the candidates, feel free to ask those outside of this meeting. We have a limited amount of time at this facility, so we need to keep the time in mind. Our timekeeper will be Myron Denson. When Mr. Denson holds up the yellow paddle, you have 30 seconds remaining of time. When he holds up the red paddle, your time is up, which means that you stop talking and relinquish the floor. Okay, are we all ready? Mr. Slater, can we see the video introduction for Jamie first, and we'll kind of get that out of the way.
Well, what you know, we tested it about 3 times today. It always goes okay. I feel like the teacher in front of the projector and all the students looking.
You're kind of hard that, aren't you, Will?
I am used to that. I'm used to it. Okay. There we go. That is not being declared. Sorry about that. That was not on purpose. That was not a shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Well, you know what we might better do, Diane? Why don't you go forward? I'm going to have to log back in, and we'll do that after.
Okay.
Does that work?
That'll be
I
fine.
apologize for that, Jane.
Okay, first question, listen carefully. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you. Mr. Coker, would you like to start with your 3-minute introduction, please?
Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Good morning. Let's hear good morning back.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Before I get started introducing myself, and who I am and what my vision is, your next mayor of Hendersonville, I want to take a moment to congratulate 3 great women on their impressive victories Thursday night. Congressman Diane Black, State Representative Courtney Rogers, and Register of Deeds Cindy Briley. Each of you faced formidable competition, and each of you stood on your record and you won impressively. Congratulations to all of you. I also want to mention, because we are good gentlemen, I do want to recognize John Isbell and Jim Hawkins on their victories as well. I know that there's a number of other of our candidates that ran unopposed. I've only got 3 minutes, but congratulations to y'all as well. I also do want to take a moment, because something's gotten lost in all this election hoopla, is our county party chairman, Jason Stewart, received a huge honor this week. He serves as CEO of the Literacy Council of Middle Tennessee, and I'm privileged to serve as their board president. Well, this week, Jason was named by the Tennessean newspaper and the Center for Nonprofit Management as one of their 30s for his excellence in nonprofit work and all the great work he's doing in Hendersonville. So take a moment, please. Jason won't brag on himself, so take a moment, please, and give him a hand. My name is Jeff Coker, and I'm running for mayor because Hendersonville needs new leadership. Our next mayor must be someone with integrity, management skills, and a vision to move our city forward. This election is about Hendersonville's future, not about its past. Hendersonville is a great city, but we also face a number of challenges. What so often gets forgotten when we go to discussing those challenges, though, is that we also have a tremendous opportunity to become even better. But it's only going to happen if we have the right leadership. I'm a small businessman working as an insurance agent and financial planner for my family-owned company. I'm a graduate of MTSU, earned an executive certificate in financial planning from Belmont University Center for Professional Development, and I went to business school at the University of Alabama. I won't be talking about that as much in the fall. I know how to meet a budget, and I will demand our city to live within its means like the rest of us. My wife, Katie, couldn't be here today because she's home with a sick 2-year-old. Our 4-year-old daughter, Briley, is there with her doing everything that she can in her best 4-year-old way to help nurse her baby brother back to health. Those kids are the reason I'm running for mayor, though. I want them to be able to grow up in the same sort of Hendersonville that was just as special as the Hendersonville that Katie and I grew up in. I'm extremely bullish on Hendersonville's future and think we have tremendous potential yet to be tapped as a city. But unlike when Katie and I were kids some 30+ years ago, it's not just going to happen anymore. At such a crucial time in our city's history, we need a mayor with integrity, management skills, and vision to move our city forward. Please support Jeff Coker for mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Elston? 2 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tommy Elston, and I'm running for mayor for a second time. And it's kind of funny because our platform from 4 years ago hasn't changed much. Matter of fact, probably hasn't changed any. All we did was move 1 or 2 categories up. We've got, our city is at a crossroad, and if we take the wrong turn right here, I believe it could be very detrimental to our city. I've got 3 boys. Me and my wife Tanya have 3 sons, have 2 grandsons. And when you get to the point, a lot of people in here know, but when you get to the point that you've got grandkids, you start thinking more about your grandkids' future. And if we don't make some changes in our city, I don't think our grandkids are going to have much fun. We have got to spend more time and more money on our infrastructure. Traffic seems to be everyone's number 1 issue, but drainage has kind of moved to the top here lately because we've got quite a few people. The houses are flooding, their businesses are flooding, and you know, right down here on New Shackle's a good example. Yokohama Grill had a sinkhole form, I believe it was the week of 4th of July. Here we are a month later, that sinkhole is still there. That sinkhole is still causing Irish Drive to close every time it rains. Drove by there yesterday, there's a police car sitting in the middle of the road, 2 public works trucks over there. I think our public works employees have better things to do than go over there and sit by that sinkhole every time it rains. We've got to make some changes for Hendersonville's future, and I think I'm the person that can get that done. Please vote for Tommy Elston on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Kimbrough, your introduction.
Thank you. I'm David Kimbrough. I have a lifelong Hendersonville resident. I moved here at the age of 1 month old in 1968. My grandparents actually came in 1959, so my daughters are the 4th generation of our family to be in Hendersonville. So it is an absolute, one of the truest statements I can make when I say I love Hendersonville and love this city. And I hope that there are many more generations, and I hope that my grandchildren talk about being the 5th generation here and how much they enjoy it. So that's a lot of really the driving force behind my decision to run for mayor at this time. I have a degree from Lipscomb University in Finance and Economics, and I went to law school in California at Pepperdine and graduated with honors from there. I've been licensed to practice law in Tennessee for 22 years. Did that in the usual way for a few years downtown Nashville, and quickly realized that just being that type of attorney was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the business world, and I wanted to be more involved with small business and things that go on in the community. So I chose to stop doing that at the time, and it actually afforded me a lot of opportunities during the middle of my career that have played a big part in my decision to run for mayor. I was the administrative officer for a manufacturing company and learned more about employees and processes and just financial issues related to developing products and people, probably than I ever learned in school. And it's such a great experience anytime you're involved in a process-based business. You learn a lot about management in those situations. Then I had the opportunity to go back to California and work with Pepperdine University again as their senior trust officer. The university manages all of its own gift and trust assets that are given to it, and they needed someone to build that office, and I was fortunate enough for them to select me to do that. And in that job, I was responsible for managing about $80 to $100 million in assets, and more importantly, that gave me the experience in dealing with a constituency. Dealing with donors to a major university is maybe the hardest thing you could possibly do. The expectations are through the roof. But it is a great experience in dealing with constituencies and really listening and putting their interest first in what you're doing. It also made me a part of the financial management portion of the university, 1,300 employees, a $250 million budget, and we had to handle the budgeting, the projecting, the cash flows, those things. Those items produced a desire in me to manage and an understanding of managing people. I came back here and now have a small business here, and just been participating in that and learning and learning and learning. And as I saw this race for mayor shape up, I felt that my experience in those areas and my background made me a perfect candidate to manage what's going with our city, not as we grow, as we mature. We're changing, and I think that management needs that kind of experience. Thank you.
Thank you all, and I guess we'll carry on with the questions. Oh, just got it? Okay.
I was waiting on the password. I went to sleep and I had to check it something.
Okay, so we'll see
Give us
Mr.
just a
Claren's
second,
intro
hopefully
here in
it'll be
just a second.
succinct.
Okay. And is it a 3-minute video?
It's actually 2 minutes.
Okay.
So.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the county party for this opportunity. Currently, I am combining work and family time on a trip out of state. I have to tell you, I'm excited to apply my work ethic and my work experience to leave Hendersonville. For more than 16 years, I have owned my own company, and during much of that time, I have worked for other companies as well. I have managed 4 campaigns for Diane Black, and I helped Republicans take Tennessee's General Assembly from the hands of Jimmy Navy and the Democrats. I also wrote and published 3 books, including The City by the Lake, A History of Hendersonville. I continue to speak about local history, sell books, and write for several clients. In 2005, I started working for a company that provides consultants for land use. My role is to help businesses cut through government red tape. I have worked toward federal permits for a lithium mine in Idaho, approvals from the Corps of Engineers for a port expansion in Oregon, a certificate of need for a hospital in Virginia, tribal blessing for a wind farm in Oklahoma, public support for an office complex in Dallas, state permission to build a railroad near San Antonio, and several other projects in 29 states and 3 countries. I help businesses create jobs. After some changes to my employer in 2015, I took the opportunity to branch out on my own, being hired by my former employer and some of my clients. Currently, I am working on projects in Florida, Missouri, Texas, and Kentucky. My professional experience and Republican background will serve the city well. I know that Republican leaders don't create government jobs, they don't negotiate with unions, and they don't encourage affordable housing. I'm excited to apply my work ethic and my work experience to lead Hendersonville. Thank you, and y'all have a good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clary, and thank you all. We'll move on now to the candidate questions. The first question deals with growth, so listen carefully. Hendersonville is currently experiencing an enormous amount of growth. Many citizens say it is happening too quickly and that our city is being overrun by apartments. How does your growth plan address these concerns? Mr. Coker, we'll start with you. 2 minutes.
First, I'd like to say that we've had an argument for too long in this town. Are we going to grow or are we not going to grow? That should not be the argument we are having. The Nashville area is expected to grow by 1.5 million people over the next 25 years. We're going to get growth regardless. As much as I would love to say we're going to build a wall and Madison's going to pay for it, we can't do that. What we can do, though, is determine what type of growth we're going to have. We've got to be intentional. We've got to be direct. Right now, we always sit back and play defense. We're reactive to change. We need leadership with a vision and a passion that can go out and sell the vision for with the sort of Hendersonville that we want to be, and that has the strength to stand up when a developer comes in and proposes something that does not fit in with those standards. We have a lot to offer, and we don't need to be selling our soul to the highest bidder. You mentioned apartments specifically. We already have over 5,000 residential apartment units in Hendersonville. 3 years ago, there was an effort to build more apartments behind Cracker Barrel on Indian Lake Road. There was a group of us citizens led by Vanessa Silkwood that stood up to oppose that. I went and spoke in front of Bowman, and I was kind of credited as giving the line of the night when I said, if more apartments made for a better community, Antioch could be Belmead. Well, you know, we've got enough here. But the thing is, being against building more apartments, that alone is simply not enough. We need to have a growth policy that demands growth not only pays for itself, but it increases the quality and character of the community. That's what we've got to focus on, and that's the kind of growth strategy that I want to bring as a mayor. We want to set high standards and demand accountability from development so we can be the city we want to be.
Thank you, Mr. Coker. And Mr. Elston?
Same question.
Same question.
I would have to say, excuse me, I would have to say I agree with the residents. We've had enough growth. We've had a mayor for 12 years that pays no attention to the infrastructure, to what the people's needs are. It seems like we've concentrated on nothing but growth for the last 10 or 12 years. I have a plan, excuse me, I have a plan to try to develop our diamond in the rough over on Saunders Ferry Road. It would be the only waterfront development in all of Middle Tennessee. We don't need any more apartments. We don't need any more high-density housing developments. I believe if we can control this growth and spend more tax dollars on infrastructure, traffic, drainage, paving our streets, we can have a much better community for everyone to live in. I believe developing the waterfront, stop and think about it. It's a little over a half mile of waterfront property on Saunders Ferry Road. Is the only waterfront commercial property in all of Middle Tennessee. That's my goal. To me, my goal's in concrete, but the plan's in the sand, because we've got to get there. We've got to concentrate on infrastructure issues and our residents' needs before we can get to the point of being able to even, in my opinion, even try to manage more growth.
Thank you, Mr. Elston. Dismiss. And Mr. Kimbrough, same question.
Yes, first I'll say that something that Jeff said is absolutely true. The question of growing is really not on the table anymore, being where we are. As I said earlier, one of the things that's happening here is more of an issue of maturity. How do we mature as a city? Every project that happens now has to be put through a consideration test that determines whether or not it's a plus. Doing projects and having things come into the city now that are neutral at best with the city are not a win for us anymore. That's not the city that we've become. So in a sense, yes, we have grown too fast, because I think there are a lot of projects that have been done that are neutral. They don't hurt us, but I think we're a strong enough and a good enough city now that we can demand projects and steps that we take that are positives and that enhance the value. The very first consideration that any of us should have should be anything that happens here. Does it improve? Does it enhance the value of the investment that every one of you have made and that we've made in our homes and our businesses and our property? If it doesn't, if at best it just holds the value, then there's no sense in just putting a building on a piece of land just for the sake of filling up that piece of land. And so I think that our maturing process as a city now is very important. And that takes leadership. It takes leadership to be able to say that we're only going to do things that will enhance all of us. That has to be our first priority. And that involves enabling and empowering people in the city to listen to the people who are affected. And I know many times as the city has grown, that's been one of the hardest things. That's the feeling that people don't get listened to, that nobody will hear their concerns about projects that they're not a plus for them. So I think that as we grow and more importantly mature, the leadership will be so crucial to make sure that anything we do here is an absolute plus and that every citizen can see that that's the case with the project.
Thank you. I'm going to borrow your microphone. Okay, the next question deals with current and future flooding and drainage issues. This is a two-part question, but it's all the same topic. One of the many challenges the next mayor of Hendersonville will face is flooding. Many claim this is due to overdevelopment in the city and poor city storm drain planning. Who should pay to fix these drainage problems? One solution to avoid flooding issues with future developments is to require developers to put up a bond that includes adequate stormwater drainage as a major portion of the design and engineering plans. Would you be in favor of such a solution? And Mr. Coker, we'll start with you.
The answer to the last question is yes, I would be in favor of that. This represents a larger issue though. What the issue that we've had, to me this even ties back into growth. These are the problems, these are the growing pains that we've had with growth. Well, here's a dirty little secret that nobody seems to realize. That this area has boomed over the past 15 years. And over the past 15 years, Hendersonville is actually in the bottom third of cities in the Metro Nashville area as far as its growth rate. But yet we seem to have so much more trouble dealing with it, so many more difficulties dealing with the growth. And so the question is, why do we have that? Because we're missing out on the best growth. We are not setting high standards. We are not demanding accountability from developers. When somebody comes in with a project, we bend over backwards to accommodate them instead of saying, you know what, we've got good things to offer. We don't have to take the first deal on the table. One of the things that we absolutely can offer, or we can make as part of a non-negotiable stance as part of developments being proposed, is to require the bonding for stormwater drainage, to require infrastructure improvements, to require this set aside and demand that these do not happen. We don't give a green light to the project until these things are done. That's what we've missed the boat on in the city for so long, because we have always, like I said, wanted to bend over backwards, accommodate people because we're in Rotary with them or things of that nature. And we have got to get beyond that good old boy mentality and run ourselves like a real professional business. And the only way we're going to do that is to get rid of the career politicians and make a change at City Hall with new leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Coker. And Mr. Kimbrough, would you like to go next on this question?
Sure.
we'll rotate the order.
Most things in my mind, at this point in my life, are run through a filter that includes a lady named Dara and 3 girls. And most things to me then revolve around the issues of safety and security, because quite honestly, for my family, that's the most important thing to me in this community. And flooding, without a doubt, is a safety and security issue. Right there with our police, our fire protection, and things. People are entitled to live in a place that is safe from water coming into their houses. So we have some major issues, and yes, there are legal issues regarding the city's ability to do certain things, but if we stop at what's merely legal, then we are never going to do our job as local government leaders. We can't stop at what's legal. We have to be outside of the box. We have to be seek answers that go beyond what we're required to do. And this is definitely one of them. I think that there are absolutely things that need to be required of developers. We have a product in Hendersonville that they want, and we know they want. We need to start acting like it. This is a great place, and there's money to be made, and I don't begrudge developers making money when they come here. But this is a great place to be, and if they're gonna be here, again, our focus has to be on the people that are already here. It has to be on the issues that are already here. If you want a city to have good things come to it in the future, the way to do that is show them that you take care of the people that are already there and the property that's already there. So we have to address the issues with developers to make sure that they're not affecting other people. And we need to look at some other options, perhaps a stormwater utility or some other item, some other mechanism like that, that would give us, the city, actually a little more ability to go on a private property or in other places where they need to help people. Right now, we're limited in some ways. We can address those issues. We can give the city a little more authority and ability to spend money on people's property if we just expand our idea of what the city's willing to do to help us with this issue. But this issue is without a doubt an issue of security and safety that's as important as any other that we have.
Thank you. And Mr. Elston?
Thank you. As I've said in the introduction and the last question, infrastructure is at the top of my list. I have a record. I have been over to Sable Court. I have been to South Burn Drive. I've been to Iris Court. All these places where these people's houses are flooding, and they'll stand in the yard and just cry because there's nothing you can do. The city needs to do its job and get in there and help these people. We can't have another mayor that just lays down and lets developers run right over it. We've got 2 developments right now, 2 1,200 home developments being built on 2-lane farm roads. And the city, the planning commission or the board, neither one made any concessions for those developers to widen those roads. What, we're gonna expect the taxpayers to pay for it? And it's kind of funny, I had lunch with a local builder the other day that has always been against impact fees. But we talked about some of these issues, and I asked him, I said, how do you think we should pay for it? And by the end of that lunch, he was actually agreeing with me that we may have to look at passing an adequate facilities tax every time a building permit's pulled. We do have bonds that require drainage, they just don't require off-site drainage. We're not making these developers take care of off-site issues. These developers have gotten away with it for so long, they don't know any other way. And if you really stop and think about it, there's a reason those guys aren't supporting me.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Okay, the next question deals with traffic issues. Traffic in Hendersonville is quickly becoming a nightmare. Many citizens are frustrated with the amount of time it takes to get around town. One option proposed by the Nashville Area Metropolitan Planning Organization is to allow buses to operate within the city limits of Hendersonville. As mayor, is this something you would actively support? And we'll start with Mr. Kimbrough.
Well, in that specific question, then I'll deal with the transit issue between Hendersonville and Nashville. That's obviously an issue for a huge portion of of our citizens who have to go to Nashville every day. Fortunately, I don't have to go every day. Thursday I had to, and I got to be a part of it and enjoy it, and I understand that completely now. There are different forms of the bus service proposal. I know the latest thing that the Transit Alliance has really pushed, and I think that I read the article, that's actually been pushed up as one of the first possible projects in Middle Tennessee, is the dedicated bus service along 386 and I-65 to all the way to Gallatin, to the northeast corridor, as they call it. And I think that's something that we very badly need to look at. That's a project that they intend to develop that would allow a lane to be dedicated, but also put the infrastructure in at the same time. If funds ever became available in the future for some type of light rail that could get people commuting to Nashville, get them there more directly, the infrastructure would already be there, because everybody knows the cost of that project, type of project consistently just puts it off, and people don't consider it very long once they see a price tag. But I think that type of service, the surface street buses just coming in and out, I don't know if that really solves the problem that we have. I think people would not be as inclined to just sit in traffic on a bus, just like they are in their car. I think they'd rather be in their car. But I think if we could have some type of dedicated service that was restricted to our highways, 386, I-65, I think that could alleviate quite a bit of pressure at people that wanted to drive then. I think would have a better experience if they choose to be in their car, because they'd have less people on the road with them, and people that don't like driving at all would have an option. So I do want to, as it relates to traffic going to Nashville, want us to continue to be fighting for projects to the northeast that will help us with that. And fortunately, right now, we seem to be on the front side of the region's mind as far as getting those type of projects started here. And so we need to continue, our mayor needs to continue pushing that.
Thank you, Mr. Kimbrough. Mr. Elston, would you like to do the same question?
I would. To me, busing is not even, it's not even something we should look at. As far as MTA busing, I believe all that does, we've already had a spike in crime over the last several years. And to allow MTA buses, I know they did a trial run and they ran some up here over the, I believe it was up Gallatin Road and through the Indian Lake Village for a couple days. But to me, all that does is allow, it brings more crime in here. We don't need any more. The traffic issues, I've met with some people at TDOT. Of course, I was an alderman for 8 years, from 2004 to 12. And the issues that we have in town, traffic on Gallatin Road has gotten ridiculous. I've sat at my campaign headquarters, never really had the opportunity because my office isn't on Gallatin Road. But my campaign headquarters right there, probably one of the busiest street corners in town. It is ridiculous. Almost all day long, it's bumper to bumper and it's backed up 10, 12 cars, if not all the way to the next light. TDOT says the only way we can time those lights to empty Gallatin Road quicker is to get that intersection realigned, get that project done. I was told yesterday they have scrapped the plans that they began with and they're actually changing them again. But I told them, we can pull this election off in November. Shortly after the first of the year, I want that project started. Whatever we have to do as a city, we need that project started. Traffic has been everyone's #1 concern, and I don't believe the city's done anything to address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elston. And Mr. Coker?
Thank you, Don. Of course, this is a two-part question. I want to start with the mass transit issue in the regional perspective first. I am for what works, and the idea of running buses here to Sumner County does not work. We have got a group of folks down in Nashville that think that they're the smartest people in the room, that, with your tax dollars, by the way, that think that they're the smartest people in the room, that dream up plans and try to compare us to other cities. The most recent comparison that we're hearing is comparing Nashville to Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte's got about 600,000 more people, number one. Number two, and most importantly, they have over 76 companies that employ 1,500 people or more. Nashville, by comparison, has 38 such entities, a number of which are governmental entities. We have a booming economy around here, but we don't have those super large employers like the Bank of America's and that sort of thing that employ 30,000 people in a downtown area. So mass transit is not going to work for this area. Our central business district stretches from downtown Nashville out to Green Hills, over to Maryland Farms, and all the way to Cool Springs. The idea that this is 1955 and everybody works a 9 to 5 shift to get on a bus is not practical. It would be an incredible waste of money. And not to mention the fact, a bus service running from Hendersonville with stops along Dickerson Road and Trinity Lane, let's use a little common sense, this is not going to make us a better place to live. I've only got 30 seconds left, so I do want to address the local traffic concerns. We've got to do a number of things, small things that we can start doing. We've got to sync our traffic lights. We wait too long at side streets now. This is a management issue. What we need is a comprehensive plan to alleviate traffic on Gallatin Road. It starts with those small steps like redesigning things, but then it goes to a larger vision of how do we start designing our infrastructure to make it where people have to spend less time on Gallatin Road. And I'm out of time.
Thank you all. Liz, about how much more time do we have? Are we out of, we're good?
No, we're still good.
Okay. Because I've got a couple more questions I could do. I'll go with this next one. Whether true or not, in some people's mind, Hendersonville city government is corrupt. As mayor, what would you do to help the city government shed that label and ensure that we have a better image around the state and county, I believe it's supposed to be, country, county. And we will start with Mr. Elston.
If you will look on the table there in front of you, there is one of my flyers that says contract with the citizens. I did that for a reason. And that's because the current administration has let developers get away with pretty much whatever they want. That was actually in the newspaper when I announced that I was gonna run. And I asked people to keep a copy of that and call me out on it. I don't believe you'd ever get the chance, but if you did, call me out on it. I want what's best for this city, period. I don't need to make under the table money. I don't need, you know what, we've got to get a mayor in there that wants what's best for the people. And I've gone through the budget. We've got, and I would venture to say, most aldermen I talk to don't even know how much is in the general fund. It's funny, the general fund, the budget says there's over $4 million. If you read on through the budget, it also says 3.4 million of that is already appropriated. So in all actuality, we've only got $643,000 in the general fund of a city that has a $43 million a year budget. And there's something wrong with that. And we need to make some changes in this city to change the way our city government runs, to change the way they look at our citizens. And we need to start stepping in the right direction.
Thank you. And Mr. Kimbrough, next.
I think absolutely the number one thing that you can do for any city, especially when you're talking about a local government city this size, it's openness, it's transparency. People just want to know what's being done and be honestly communicated with about the things that are happening. There may be things that people don't like. There may be decisions people don't like. If the process is open and if the consideration is honest and if it's done with the interest of the citizens, as I said, is it looked at and considered as a plus for the city, or is it just neutral, or is it just a favor for somebody? People can see through those things and they deserve the right to actually see that. And I think if it's an honest process that people have confidence in your decision, even if they don't like it, I think people have confidence. I think people have lost confidence in the decisions of the city in the past few years. And not always been wrong decisions. Some wrong decisions, some right decisions. I think there are right decisions that have been made that people don't have confidence in, just because they don't have confidence in the process that we undergo anymore. And I'm not gonna blame anybody. I think to some extent, we're probably all a little responsible for that, and there may be some more than others. But I think that credible, strong leadership is the first step to restoring confidence of the people in Hendersonville about the process that things go through in this city. The reason I made the decision this time to run was it was a point in my career that really might not necessarily make sense, but I also feel like there are a lot of good people that don't do things for the city, don't step up to run for elections in the city because they're so frustrated and their confidence level's so low in what we've done. And I felt like that I could not sit around and complain about that aspect of the city and not step up and do something about it. So I think we need the credible leadership that will open the process up, and I think openness is the single biggest key to restoring confidence of our citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Coker.
If you go to any event, and we've got a number of great civic groups here in Hendersonville, and they all have their events, whether it's Chamber of Commerce, luncheon, a fundraiser for whatever. If you go to any event here in town, you'll always see about 200 people there. 150 of them will always be the same, no matter who it is or where it is. That's because so many of our folks, over 70% of the people that live in Hendersonville, drive outside of Hendersonville each day to go to work. They have no idea all they do is they sleep here in town, their kids go to school here in town, they go to church here in town, their kids may play ball here in town. But outside of that, their life, their work, their career, their interests are down in Nashville or beyond. What that has done is that it's created an environment where, I'll try to put this diplomatically, where we're left with a situation where not necessarily our best and brightest are left here in town to make decisions for the city. It turns into a little good old boys club that is a self-perpetuating, self-recycling system, and we've got to break through from that. And too many of these folks have a vested interest in what goes on because it lines their pocketbook or whatever the case may be, or there's just not simple business sense that's applied to things. But you'll look at somebody that wants to develop something because you go to Rotary with him or something like that. You don't apply simple common sense business principles to hold people accountable. That's the problem that we've had for the past 12 years, and quite frankly, longer than that. We have grown beyond that. We need we need professional leadership. We need to act like a business here in the city. And most importantly, we need term limits to end the cycle of the career politicians, and we need real ethics reform. And the first thing that I want to do as mayor is I want to call for a complete independent audit of City Hall. And if there's things that have gone on that should not have gone on, we're going to let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you, Mr. Coker. And I have one more question, but do we want to go ahead for closing remarks? Y'all want to hang around for one more quick question or not? We'll do one more question. Y'all can make your answers kind of quick, maybe. That's a good question. The city of Hendersonville has done a great job of attracting retail and restaurants. However, bringing white-collar jobs doesn't seem to be a focus of Hendersonville. What kind of firms should we be attracting? As mayor, how would you work to get them here? And we'll start with Mr. Elston.
I think Hendersonville, we have a lot to offer as far as our community. The people make the community and the type of place it is to live. And then, we have some of the greatest people I've seen anywhere in this country, right here in Hendersonville. Everybody seems to care. If something happens, tornado, flood, people jump in and help. And but I think we have to have more to offer. We've got good schools. We've got good parks. We need to make some changes in our parks about traffic patterns and that kind of thing. But we have a lot to offer. But I think we're going to need to have those white-collar jobs in here in order to support all the retail and restaurants that the current administration's brought in. Not sure we need any more pizza places or banks. But we've got to concentrate on hitting this infrastructure fix before we try to bring in more businesses. We can't just keep growing and letting this growth cause more homeowners to flood or cause traffic to be worse. We do that, Gallatin Road will just be gridlock. And, you know, we bought up the houses on Linden Drive several years ago. We might as well just go ahead and have Tima look at buying all the houses on Southburn, buying all the houses on Sabley Court. And, again, I'm all for growth when the time comes, but I think we're at a point now we need to slow down a little bit and get a handle on it.
Thank you, Mr. Elston. And Mr. Kimbrough?
Personally, I would say that if there are opportunities for us for corporate entities to come here and bring office jobs, I will say right now, I will be the first one at the door to consider everything they're offering to bring, because I think that is something this city badly needs right now, and it covers a lot of areas. One area is every job we create here at a company like that prevents one of our citizens from driving to Nashville, we've chipped away at our transit issue. At least for that person, we've dynamically changed the traffic issue for that person. It may take a little bit longer to get from one spot to the other in Hendersonville, but when that's their destination and the last 45 minutes of their trip are gone, it's a better place for them. Hendersonville's got, I think we've got plenty to offer right now. I think we've got a lot to offer anybody. One thing that I think a hole that we have is the workforce that they're looking for. Because of the nature of our city, and a lot of us are the same way, I was. We lose a lot of people between the ages of 22 and 32, 33 during that point in their life when they go to school and start their careers. They have their children and they know this is the place they want to be. But that's the workforce that people are looking for. Unfortunately, I have to admit that I've gone beyond the age of the workforce that people are looking for when they're bringing companies. They want a younger workforce. They'll bring their management, their upper management with them. They want those new managers, those new leaders. And our city, we need to continue to take care of each other. And that's what I said earlier, when we take care of what's here. I think businesses are attracted to cities that take care of their own because they know their employees are gonna be citizens of that place and they wanna know their employees are gonna be taken care of. So I think we do need to pursue those, but I think we have to create a city and an environment here that one that attracts people at the prime of their work years, because that's what companies don't come anymore and look for workers. They come to where the workers are. And we need to produce the kind of city, be the kind of city that brings back our people, my kids, when they get out of school in a few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimbrough. Mr. Coker?
What David said about bringing white collar jobs here, alleviating traffic on Vietnam veterans is absolutely right. That's one thing, if you look at my push card that I've highlighted as a specific plank in my platform, one thing that I want to pursue more than anything, because it does, it solves. Commuter traffic is one of the biggest problems with over 70% of our workforce leaving Hendersonville each day. That is far and away the highest percentage of any city in the metro Nashville area. We've got to get a handle of that and bring good jobs closer to home. Part of the problem we've had here in Hendersonville is we don't take economic development seriously. We are, quite frankly, getting our tails kicked by our peer cities in the region. Gallatin, for instance, has a full-time ECD director. We've never made that commitment here in Hendersonville. We had a part-time ECD director whose responsibilities were /ECD director, half mayoral assistant. The guy frankly spent more time playing politics up at the school board than he did anything else. We've got to start taking that seriously. There's been talk with the city about, well, if we just land one corporate headquarters, that'll turn everything around. We're nowhere close to that yet. That is just this mythical corporate headquarters idea. What we can do and what we should start targeting are regional and branch offices, stuff that employ 40, 50, 60, 70 people, whose impact as a single unit is not that great, but you have a critical mass of those. We can start having more folks working here closer to home. I will be the sort of enthusiastic salesperson who goes out and sells Hendersonville to these companies. We have everything we want to offer. We have a low cost of living in comparison to Williamson County. One thing I like to make the comparison of is we've got the amenities for the people that are at the upper end of the spectrum. In Williamson County, for instance, they can't afford to live in the middle management, and entry-level employees can't afford to live anywhere close to work. They're driving 45 minutes from Murray County or over in Sumner or something to go to work. We have all that within 15 minutes. We have these things that the companies are looking for. We don't have anybody that's going out and selling them. I'll be that sort of enthusiastic salesperson that goes out and sells Hendersonville, brings the type of companies we want here.
Thank you all for your responses, and now we have 3 minutes for closing remarks, and we'll start with Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you. I think what you've heard today, and I think what you'll hear in the next 90 days is, I think we all know what the issues are. We all agree on the challenges that are facing our city right now. I think we all agree on the opportunities that are facing our city right now. We all live here every day. We see the things, and so there's not going to be a great deal of disagreement on the things that we face as a city. I think it's more of an idea of the difference in how you'll manage it and what your personality is and what your approach is to managing the vision and what you see. Personally, I see a great city that needs to do two things. We need to address the challenges. We need to address the challenges again of the things, people that are already here, the things that have already been built that now need to be maintained and now need to be improved. And we need to also seize opportunities. I don't want to let addressing issues that we have now, needs that we have now, ever get in the way of missing an opportunity that's going to make us better. Having a vision, having the ability to see both sides of that is crucial to the improvement of our city. And I think the other thing that I've thought about for our city is that as we grew over the first 47, 48 years, is that it became, as most cities, a very bureaucratic process. You check the box, we bring in this much money, we'll do these projects, if you meet these requirements, you can do your project. And we just check boxes and here's what we're gonna do, it costs this much to pay for it, here's our tax rate. That works to a certain extent for a city for a while, and then you get a certain size and have a certain amount of amenities in your city, and that approach doesn't work anymore. If we do that, then we will not be able to address any of the concerns that we have. We won't have the money to go back and address flooding issues. We won't have the capital that we need to address traffic issues or to improve anything. We've got to now change our mindset from bureaucratic to innovative. And the innovation we need does come from the people that work for the city. And I would say most of the innovation that we should have in this city will come from the people on the front line in the offices at City Hall and in the fire department, in the police department, in the public works department. The guys that do the jobs and the ladies that do the jobs, they have a better idea of unique and innovative options for us to consider than we do. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a technical person as far as building a road or building a sidewalk or pouring concrete. People are innovative that work for us. We've got to empower them to do that. We've got to let our employees in this city be innovative and not be afraid to fail. And again, that takes leadership to encourage that. It takes leadership of our board, which we haven't really talked about, but our board needs leadership in a big way. To bring that board back together to, in a unified stance, tell our employees, we want you to help us make this city better, and we'll support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimbrough. And Mr. Coker, you go next.
Diane, I want to thank you. I want to thank the Republican Party of Sumner County for hosting this forum here today. This one's kind of special because this is unlike the other forums that we're going to have scheduled for later this year. We're talking specifically with Republicans in this room this morning. While this is a nonpartisan race, I do think it's important for those in this room to remember who has worked to build this party and who has spent time volunteering to get conservative candidates elected. Some folks running for office now only show up here when it's election time, specifically their own election. And some folks have worked against conservative candidates and helped create needless wounds and petty attempts to unnecessarily divide us. I'm proud to have twice been a member of the Republican Party of Sumner County's Executive Committee. And I remember serving as County Party Secretary 16 years ago when we called for a local Republican primary. People back then thought we were nuts for that. They said not only would we never get any Republican elected to local office, they said we'd struggle to even find a candidate willing to put their name on the ballot as a Republican. Well, for those of you who've been involved, know that they were dead wrong on that. It's now impossible to get elected in Sumner County without being Republican. And if we have any problem with candidates, it's with candidates claiming to be Republicans who really aren't. We had a bold vision for the Sumner County Republican Party 16 years ago, just like I have a bold vision for Hendersonville now. And just like back then, the only way we're going to accomplish what we want to accomplish is to break out of our self-limiting and self-defeating acceptance of the status quo. Hendersonville deserves so much better than what we've been getting from our local government the past 12 years. Recycling the same old career politicians isn't going to fix anything. This election is about Hendersonville's future, not its past. Now more than ever, we need a mayor who has the integrity, management skills, and vision to move this city forward. I feel that I'm that candidate. I would love to talk with you more about it. I would appreciate your vote on November 8th. Jeff Coker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coker. And last but not least, Tommy Elston.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for having this forum this morning. We've got, I guess number one, I don't believe I ever said we would not entertain a corporate headquarters coming here to bring in some white collar, higher paying jobs. But what I did say is we will concentrate on fixing these infrastructure issues that make our city better for our residents. Without our residents, we don't have much. And, you know, I know quite a few people that have moved out of Hendersonville lately because of the traffic and because of residents over on Sabley Court right now talking about they wish they could sell their house. They can't because the floor joists are running out from under it. It's gonna cost, one lady over there, it's gonna cost her $45,000 to fix the floor joist under her house before she could even move. Well, most of us, some of us could, but most of us probably could not afford to have 2 house payments like these people would be forced to do. We need a mayor that puts the people first. I have been through the city's budget, and there is, I know we've got some aldermen here, but I think our committees could do a better job going through that budget. I think our department heads could do a better job tightening their belts. I'm really surprised, this being a Republican forum this morning, there were no questions about how are you gonna pay for your plans. I've been through the budget, and I've found about $2 million so far. That's without getting rid of any other pet projects. But I found about $2 million that we could move over to Public Works to take care of getting our traffic infrastructure started, to fixing some of these drainage issues. We need a mayor that, you know, sometimes experience is a bad thing, but sometimes it's a good thing. I sat on that board for 8 years. I went through Public Works or public safety budgets with a fine-tooth comb. And the department, our public safety, fire chief and police chief, sometimes we butted heads. I never gave them everything they asked for. I gave them what we came to an agreement that they needed. Made sure their needs were taken care of, and we didn't waste any money. And I would appreciate your support and your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank all the candidates for their time